Well, howdy there, pipe bells and gals. How y'all doing? Old Holy Smoke Pipe Padre here, and right now, of course, I don't have a pipe. I'm driving, coming back from the Highlands. Made my little homily video up there to this morning, so kind of coming back with some films in the can there, and gonna go back and sit in front of my Mighty Mac and kind of edit them and see if I can turn them into something coherent. So anyway, I'm not really got my pipe with me right now because right now I'm driving, and it's also kind of Lent, and I'm probably kind of, even though it's not really something I normally, kind of give up for Lent, but it's not something because I don't really do a lot of it. I don't, it's not like coffee. I gave up coffee. Gosh, it'll be, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. No, it's already 2 weeks. I started a couple weeks before Ash Wednesday because I knew I would go through caffeine withdrawals. So I kind of thought, let's be smart about this. And if you do the hard work in the beginning, then when it's time to really show up and do what you have to do, then it's a little bit easier, I find. So kind of did a little bit of personal sacrifice and said, let's start early, and you'll be happier. You won't be happy in the beginning, but you'll certainly be happy when it's over with, and you're able to kind of be where other people are just starting, so you're going to be beyond that point. So that's what I kind of like about kind of having to do things the hard way, because then once it's over, it's over. So anyway, so that's that. Make of it what you will. Yeah, I've been kind of thinking about what happened in Florida last week with the shooting and the aftermath, what's going on. I really don't have, everybody keeps saying, well, what's the answer to this problem? Can we prevent this from happening again? And I think the simple answer is, again, it's an answer that probably a lot of people would not care to hear, but unfortunately it is probably the one that's more rooted in reality, and that is that, well, sadly, you're not going to be able to prevent this from happening again. There's going to be young people that will be sadly killed, and maybe not by guns, but by cars. In fact, I was thinking, what kills more teenagers, more often, than AR-15s? Well, cars, motorcycles, trucks, snowboards, bicycles. They will continue to die from probably car accidents far more than they will from AR-15. So the question is, if you're going to ban things, outlaw things, confiscate all things that cause bodily injury and harm, then I would say that the car is probably the worst offender than an AR-15. It's tragic. Even saying all these words: horrific, tragic, deplorable, unfathomable, unthinkable, unmentionable, all these things that people say to describe these kinds of ugly events, ugly evil events, which is what they are. They sound very trite. It's like a trope. We just kind of fall into this formula. One of the things that I heard that I thought was a little bit like, oh gosh, I can't believe a news person said, we need to get to the bottom of this and find out what triggered this young man. I'm thinking, you didn't say that, did you? You didn't say that. Please tell me you didn't say that, but they did. Anyway, so I think it's just part and parcel when people are talking about certain events that words kind of that associate with these things kind of get into the vocabulary of people describing them. So I don't think people are trying to make puns or, trying to be punny. It's just, it's very difficult to find the right words to say in difficult situations. Some people are better at it than others. But getting back to, what is the problem? People want to blame guns. Again, you go ahead if you want to. But at the same time, it takes a human being with an intention behind the gun, which is the real deadly weapon, that human mind intent on destroying, reaping havoc, chaos, death and destruction. It's an individual with an evil intent that will carry it out. The AR-15 could have sat in a closet for 20 years and nobody would have been the wiser, and everybody would have been walking around, especially those 17 kids, happy, healthy, and living life. But unfortunately, because this person, and again, people, I think that this is where maybe a lot of people aren't focusing on. We live in a culture where we don't want to blame people, we don't want to judge people, we don't want to hold people accountable. It's wrong to, offend people, and we don't want to be offending. We want to be accepting. We want to be tolerant. So if you transgress against the virtues of acceptance and tolerance, well, you can't do that. So, anytime you're going to say anything that's critical, oops, now you're being intolerant. Now you're not being accepting. So we can't go down that road. So this is where we've got ourselves. So now we look at this young man. I don't know, his last name is Cruz. Is it Nicholas Cruz? I don't know. And so these kids, they don't want to say anything bad about him. So the only thing they can blame now is our guns. No. We need to go back and look at the fact that maybe you don't want to blame him, if that's where you want to go. But the fact is that he did this evil act, and he is responsible. Okay? So you don't have to hate on him if you don't. I mean, you can find him pretty deplorable if you want to. That's a real deplorable person. But he had issues. He had mental issues, and even the kids that at least will speak out about him will say that the kid was messed up from the very beginning. He had a bad childhood. Maybe he even had some cognitive disabilities. Who knows? But the bottom line is that this young man chose, whether he was, it sounds like he's completely aware that what he did was, oops, I guess I really messed up. It seems like maybe he's emotionally kind of has some problems, some issues. So again, he's got some mental impairment somewhere. And he decided that he was angry. And when we look, even 2-year-olds get angry, and they do little 2-year-old things. Like they throw their food, they throw their sippy cups at mommy and daddy. They throw their fork and knife if they have a fork and knife. They basically throw temper tantrums, and they kind of lash out. Now, most people laugh at 2-year-olds because they're pretty funny. They're not going to really hurt anybody. But when you take a 19-year-old and arm him with an AR-15, now you've got a whole different scenario. He's throwing a temper tantrum, and it's a deadly one. So, the gun by itself is kind of inconsequential. He could have done it with, he could have done it with, some kid said, he didn't do this with a knife. Well, he could have. He could have done it with a bomb. He could have done it with a car. Again, go back to the cars. Cars kill more teenagers than AR-15s. So, again, I don't know where we're going to go with this. I guess there's going to be a march, and everybody's going to get angry at Trump and the NRA. NRA basically teaches, rifle marksmanship and safety. One of the things that we don't teach kids anymore is respect for deadly things. When I was growing up, I knew a couple things that you weren't supposed to mess with ever. Guns. I have guns. I don't make a big deal about it because it's not a big deal in my life. And I remember we had a power grid with all these electrical transformers, and it was behind a big locked fence. Now, kids seeing that stuff, and maybe I'll find a picture and put it up on the wall. You see that, and you think if you don't know that's dangerous, you think, oh, that's something to play on, like jungle gym, bars, monkey bars, something you climb on. And it made it very clear that, one, you were not allowed in this space, and two, it was deadly. And I remember driving by that when I saw the sign, danger, big danger sign, and it showed a person getting electrocuted, and they're dying. It wasn't graphic, but it was enough to send the message that this isn't a place to play. This is something that you need to basically stay away from. You need to treat this with respect. And I remember, you know what? And to this day, I haven't been electrocuted. Nope, not once. Not even tempted to go in there and play with those electrodes, that little power grid there, climb on it, play around on it. Never was tempted. And I was taught from the very beginning that guns are extremely dangerous and they're not to be played with. They're not toys. And that, they're not like a video game. And so guns are something that, a lot of kids maybe have a fascination for, but they've never been properly taught how to interact with a firearm. And the NRA actually teaches firearm safety as well as marksmanship. People don't hear that because they don't want to hear it. And sadly, it's kind of turned into a political football thing now. And everybody says, well, these kids, we need to listen to them because look what they've just what they've lived through. The ones that, lived through it. But because some people feel that the only acceptable answer is the complete confiscation and annihilation of firearms, they don't want to hear any other solutions to this problem. And unfortunately, if you're going to have that kind of a mindset, then there's no real dialogue that can take place because you have made up your mind that anybody that, again, disagrees with you, should sound familiar, we talk about this quite a lot, is that if you have a differing opinion and you're somehow got the attention of the media and you have their backing, then all other viewpoints are not to be considered. So that's the problem, I think, is that this is just going to bog down into, again, a political stalemate. And now I think some of these young people will begin to understand later in life that, again, not all guns are evil, and not all people that own guns are evil. In fact, I'll just briefly share this, that I have to credit a couple of good armed civilians who probably saved my life and my sister's life and my mom's life when we were very young, many decades ago. And if it hadn't been for them, good armed citizens who insinuated themselves into an act of violence and protected the innocent with arms, I may not even be here today. So where some people see guns as bad and evil and people that have guns is bad and evil. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of good people out there who have guns, and they would probably use them for good as opposed to ill. So another thing too is that kids aren't properly taught the respect for firearms, and so they have fear. And every time you have fear, sometimes it leads you to unreasonableness. You don't see things clearly. You see them from one vantage point, and you're prejudiced. You have a bias, and sometimes your bias can basically deceive you into thinking that your view of the world is the right view of the world. And we're all susceptible to that. Even myself, I know that. But at the same time, when I look at the people that I know and my lived situation, I'm thankful that good, law-abiding citizens who were armed came to the rescue and prevented further violence and death. Because they were armed, they were able to do that. They were able to make somebody who was in the act of killing somebody have a second moment to think, because they showed forth that they were not going to let this person continue in their act of violence, and that they had a little bit more force to make that person comply. And they did. Fortunately, they did. And they left the scene, and we never saw them again. But again, the reality was that some people who were brave enough and armed were able to stop something from something really bad happening. So again, some people don't like to hear those kinds of stories, because those aren't politically correct stories, but those are true stories, just as true as what happened to those poor children, young people at Parkland, Florida. So I always believe that it's a combination of both these things, the both and, that you kind of arrive at what is factual, what is truthful, what is real. And so hopefully, we'll have some meaningful dialogue, and as a result, we will have some positive solutions to truly prevent something like this from ever happening again. Okay, well, that's my take on the recent Parkland thing. So thanks for watching, and light up your world, light up your pipe. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.